Potential. That's a word that you're going to hear tossed around a lot when it comes to the newly released Apple TV. It has the potential to be a great streaming device. It has the potential to be a wonderful music playing machine. It has the potential to be an awesome gaming console. But is it doing any one of those things in a mind-blowing fashion currently? Not exactly. Fortunately, the Apple TV has plenty of room for growth, because it's powered by a more significant operating system called tvOS, and Apple has opened up the platform so that developers can create apps for the Apple TV. If you buy an Apple TV now, you're buying into that potential. Already, it can do more than the third generation version that it supplants. The older hardware couldn't download apps, and it wasn't capable of playing games natively on device. With the new Apple TV, you have all of that, along with much improved hardware, a better remote that doesn't require line of sight, yes, and limited Siri access. Hardware. Out of the box, the first thing that you'll notice about the new Apple TV is that it's taller than the device that it replaces. But outside of height and weight differences, it looks almost exactly the same as its predecessor. There are a couple of differences that you'll notice on the rear of the device. The USB mini connection has been replaced by a USB Type-C connection, for instance, and the optical audio output has been nixed altogether. Internal changes include 802.11ac for improved Wi-Fi performance and Dolby Digital 7.1. You'll also receive a dual-core A8 system on a chip, which is a significant upgrade over the single-core A5 chip from the prior generation. Another important improvement, which unsurprisingly goes unmentioned on Apple's website, is the inclusion of 2 GB of RAM. That's a major boost over the past generations and should help multitasking in games a lot. Siri Remote. The Siri remote control that comes with the Apple TV is completely redesigned and features many more sensors and buttons. It is arguably the biggest differentiator between the old Apple TV and the new model. Whereas the old remote control required line of sight to the set-top box in order to control the interface, the new Siri remote uses Bluetooth, meaning you can control the Apple TV even if it's located inside of an entertainment center, for instance. The remote axes the directional control of its predecessor and instead opts for a MacBook trackpad-inspired clickable glass touch surface. There are dedicated buttons on the remote for menu, home, Siri, volume up and down, and play and pause. There's also dual microphones for voice input, an IR sensor for controlling IR devices, and a lightning port for charging. That's right, no more dealing with difficult-to-find watch batteries. Sensors include a gyroscope and accelerometer. This makes it possible to use the controller with Wii-inspired motion-controlled games and apps. Siri integration is the headline feature for the Siri remote, and it works really well where it can. For example, you can use Siri to search for movies, and you can be extremely specific with your requests. For instance, you could say, find movies from the 80s starring Tom Cruise, or find highly rated movies from the 90s that are rated PG. Siri can even work in context, so after the initial search results are displayed, you can say something like, only the action movies, and Siri will tighten up the search results. Siri is also capable of performing searches on sports scores, weather, and stocks. You can even launch apps with Siri. But outside of that, Siri functionality is curiously limited. You can't play or control music with Siri, you can't adjust settings with Siri, you can't search the App Store with Siri, and you can't use Siri for text dictation. Considering that Siri can be used for all that and more on iOS, it is a bit odd and frustrating that it's so limited here on the Apple TV. Interface. The TVO interface is similar to the old Apple TV interface. This time, however, Apple is aimed for a brighter white background, which is nice for the daytime, but not as well suited for using the device at nighttime or in dark conditions. Navigating with the touch surface on the Siri remote definitely takes some time to get used to. The control isn't as precise as having digital hardware buttons, but it'll likely become second nature after some extended time using it. Apps are represented by rounded rectangular icons on the interface, and they can be launched by clicking on the remote's touch surface. The menu button on the remote is used as a back button to navigate back to the previous screen. The home button can be used to go directly to the home screen and works very much the same as the home button on an iOS device. You can even double click on the home button to invoke an app switcher for switching between apps and force quitting apps. Even though the new Apple TV contains beefy hardware when compared to the outgoing model, I still sense some lag and overall sluggishness when it comes to running apps and perusing certain portions of the interface. The most obvious demonstration of this is when invoking the app switcher with the double click of the home button. There is noticeable lag when opening the app switcher and it just doesn't feel snappy enough. Outside of the occasional sluggishness, everything works fairly well with the interface and with navigation until you have to enter text with the on-screen software keyboard. There's no skirting around the fact that the software keyboard is downright bad and arguably one of the worst tvOS design decisions. Not only does the Apple TV software keyboard lack the traditional QWERTY layout that most of us are used to by now, but all the letters are displayed as a single line, which makes navigating and inserting each character a tedious exercise and just extremely frustrating. It's terrible. What's worse is that you can't pair a wireless Bluetooth keyboard with the Apple TV for faster text input. This makes entering complex passwords and the like a painful process. Adding insult to injury is the lack of compatibility between the Apple Remote app on the Apple Watch and the iPhone and the new Apple TV. Fortunately, it is possible to bypass having to type your Apple ID password in most cases, but this is still a huge annoyance and a huge inconvenience. Future growth. The bottom line is that the Apple TV has tons of room for growth and early adopters are essentially buying into the potential of the device. The fact that the Apple TV runs tvOS means that it can be fleshed out, it can be updated, and it can even be completely redesigned if Apple sees fit. Apps can be updated, new games will be released on a regular basis, and support will inevitably grow for extra peripherals. Apps are, without a doubt, the future of television. With the release of the Apple TV, the groundwork has been laid. There's still quite a ways to go before this device can fully live up to its potential. The Apple TV is by no means a must-buy in its current form, but after a few software iterations, its value and usefulness will definitely grow. If you've already jumped in the game, enjoy this period of watching this new platform evolve and ultimately flourish. If you've decided to wait, just know that you aren't missing anything particularly groundbreaking at the moment, but it's only a matter of time before you'll feel compelled to join in on the fun as well.